What's good? Alright, so this is my third time attempting to record this. Last two times, phone has gone dead. So this month, I'm going to be reading We Are Indivisible. It's by Leah Greenberg and Ezra Leving. It's essentially a blueprint. You call it a blueprint, you call it a guide, detailing on what we need to do for democracy after Trump. Because don't get it twisted. The goal right now is to get Donald Trump out of office, but really Trump isn't the problem. There's a lot of things behind, a lot of issues that led to Donald Trump being elected, which if we ignore those issues, long term, we're going to be right back to where we are right now. Really, we're at a point where our democracy is failing the majority of us, whether some people like to admit it or not. So I'm going to be diving into the details of the book. So the book starts off, it's split into three sections. The first section is more of a background of how we got here. Second section is what we got to do to win. And then the third section is what a democracy is going to look like after we win. So it's broken down into step-by-steps, and obviously it isn't as simple as just going down the list and crossing stuff off. But it's got actionable things that we can be doing and really organizing in order to get some of that power back. So like I said, the first section, which is basically just a background of how we got to the dysfunction that we're seeing today. That section is broken down into several chapters, with the first chapter being titled A Buckling and Rigged Economy. A Buckling and Rigged Democracy. So the first part of that chapter, which is a democracy buckling, that goes in that does a deep dive into what exactly is it that is happening right now. So I don't have to sit here and tell you that our democracy is not working, is falling apart, and that it's rigged, right? That's actually the second part of chapter 1, which is a democracy rigged. So while the first part of the chapter goes into the background of what it was that the founding fathers expected from the country, or at least what they foresaw and what they didn't foresee. And what they did not expect was a country that's as polarized as the one that we're currently living in, where people aren't working together anymore. We're not working towards solutions. We're not working towards resolving the issues, and we're really just becoming stagnant to the point where we've just got a lot of gridlock and a lot of dysfunction. And if you study history and just study what's happened to other societies, other democracies that have led to or that have experienced constant dysfunction, constant gridlock, it ultimately leads to the downfall of that society. So, having said that, if you think about the constant government shutdowns that we're having and just how our Congress, our Senate, we're not really passing any legislation right now. Those are the things that if we don't work towards resolving and go back, figure out how we can go back towards working together, at the end of the day, we're going to end up failing. So I'll dive into part 1 tomorrow. We'll go into more of the background of the different parties and just what's kind of led to the point where we're at now, where our democracy is just falling apart. Part 2, which I hope to dive into on Wednesday, it discusses more of the details of our democracy being rigged. I'm sure, I don't have to sit here and say this out loud, but there's one party that seems to, even though they're not the majority right now, they seem to be fixing a lot of what's going on in politics in their favor. And once we do a little bit more of a deep dive into the party itself, we're going to discover that there's an alliance between three main groups. The first one being wealthy plutocrats, the second one being white nationalists, and the third one being evangelicals. You've got those three groups right now that have kind of just taken over a party, and through stacking courts, gerrymandering, which I don't want to imply that only one party benefits from gerrymandering, because it's not true. Both parties actually participate in that, but there's one party that is continuously working towards ensuring that people, mainly people of color, are losing their rights to vote, are losing their ability to vote, and all in all, they're essentially rigging the system. They're making it they're making it so that rather than constituents elect their officials, they're choosing us. They're drawing maps and they're deciding who votes for them, to where they no longer have to campaign to everybody. If they've drawn a district that's mostly filled with people who look and think like them, why would they be worried about convincing the few people who might not think the same way, right? So I'll dive into those details, that background a little bit more towards the end of the week in part 2. And then in chapter 2, we're going to learn more about what we can do about it, what constituents can do, how we can get our power back. But all in all, my goal is that as we work towards the current election, getting Trump out of office, I'm hoping that not only are we successful in that, but that we're also successful in affecting change post Donald Trump. Because realistically, there's a lot of issues going on. We talk about former politicians turning into lobbyists, and how it just seems that a certain group of people is kind of getting away with a lot more than they should be getting away with. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as the week goes along. Please feel free to give me any feedback that you might have. Feel free to follow. Let me know if there's anything specific that you'd like for me to discuss. And I appreciate y'all watching. Peace.